Hello, and welcome back or welcome to the channel. So today, as the title says, P5X's operations team actually listened. So this morning, they sent out a letter to the player base in regards to all of the feedback and criticisms they've been receiving online in regards to how global and Japanese versions of the game has been handled. And honestly, from what I briefly looked over, it looks very promising. I have been giving them a lot of grace and just trying to be patient in regards to all the changes that a lot of people like myself have been wanting in the game. And I gave them until 2.0 characters started dropping to really figure out how they wanted to handle the global and Japanese versions. So them dropping this letter now is a very big relief for me, especially for someone who has played this game for an ungodly amount of time already. Now, without further ado, let us dive into this letter. So, starting off strong, implementation of a new contract system. We have received a lot of requests to implement the contract that guarantees the most wanted 5-star character that is in the Chinese Asia versions, and we are currently considering its implementation for the Japanese Western versions as well. Now, if you guys didn't know, in the China, Korea servers, they had a contract that basically guaranteed that you would get the featured 5-star in 110 pulls. Now, a lot of people have been wanting to get that banner over here on the Western version because losing your 50-50 when you hit hard pity at 80 pulls and then having to go to another hard pity to just get your guaranteed 5-star is a big pain in the ass, okay? I understand. So having to only do 110 pulls in comparison to the 160 makes it a lot easier in terms of the people who are free to play because they just need to grind 110 pull worth of gems instead of 160. And obviously we don't really have enough content to cover that many pulls, but with the rewards that we'll basically get into later, as well as just the new content that's coming out in 2.0. Hopefully they plan on releasing this soon, just so more free-to-play players are able to get the featured 5-star. But yeah, I'm very excited for this one. So there's the gambler in me that might still try to do my pulls on the 80 pull banner just because I might get it early, even though I'm probably not. But you know, it's a nice option to have, to just have the 110 guarantee banner. You don't really lose anything by just doing this. I feel like you have more to gain if your luck isn't that great. So very excited to see when they decide to implement this in our version of the game. So yeah, they did mention that in the China, Korea servers that this contract was implemented 6 months after release. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to implement it in our game to kind of match the timeline that it was over there. I don't think they're going to make us wait 6 months, or at least 4 more months. 4 more months for its release. I think they might speed it up just because of the speed that the banners are coming out right now at. But yeah, I do hope that it's a lot sooner than later. They also do mention to make sure that you realize that the way that the pulls are being counted on the different contracts is different. So obviously on the limited banners, for example, when Yui and Joker were both out, when you pull on Joker, your pulls also get considered for your pity on Yui, right? Whereas for this one, your pulls on an 80 guaranteed banner will not transfer over to the 110 banner, which kind of makes sense because it's like, okay, well, if you're pulling to 80, right, and you see that you're basically at 70 pulls and you're like, okay, well, the next one is at 80, I didn't get it early, might as well just go on a guarantee on the 110 banner. It doesn't really work like that. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Hopefully people read this so they don't get confused, because I assure you there's probably going to be someone out there complaining about this, saying it's a bug or something, but they clearly stated here that it's a different count for both contracts. Also, sorry about this. I don't know how to make it go away because I'm zoomed in, but you guys will be okay. I'll read it for you. So this next one is a big one that I was also pretty concerned about because I wasn't really sure why they decided to do this. But when we first got Lufel's plan 3 and 4, people noticed that we didn't have Minami copies or her 5-star weapon as options on those plan rewards. Now on the China Asia versions of the game, they were able to get these rewards. Now they say here that the reason why is In the Japanese Western versions, Plan 3 and 4 were implemented earlier compared to the Chinese and Asia versions. In the Chinese Asia versions, Minami was already available in the gold ticket contracts when Plan 3 and 4 were implemented. So the reason why they did this is because since Minami was already on the standard banner, it made sense to them to have that as an option for people who ended up getting her through the standard banner, which I get, but that also brings us back to why a lot of people were upset that they were waiting 6 months to add Minami to the standard banner. They are also going to be doing that to Yumi, unfortunately. So we'll get into that next. But anyways, for the Japanese Western versions, we plan to provide a new method for players to obtain the Cognite and weapon. We are preparing a special campaign that will also benefit those who obtain duplicates of Minami and her weapon. The details for this campaign will be in the latter half of this letter. So I'm really glad that they're trying to make up for the lack of that option in our plans, even though like I get that it makes sense, but it's also like, damn bro, if you were gonna wait this long, then I'd rather have you wait until Minami was on the standard banner to release 3 and 4, I guess. But it's like, oh, well, they'll figure it out, hopefully. At least we know that they're acknowledging it and trying to make an event instead. So back to what I mentioned before about Minami basically getting added to the standard banner 6 months later. They are still sticking with that plan, unfortunately. They will be adding Yumi and Minami 6 months after, 6 months after their initial release. Among the characters that appear in the game up to version 1.4, the Phantom Idols that will be added to the Phantom Idol draft are as follows. So Minami and Yumi. I still don't know why they want to stick with this, especially since they received a lot of feedback and requests regarding these new characters and them being added way later. They already said that it was kind of to make fake FOMO, which I feel like is pretty stupid in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry if there's someone out there who's really upset that they decided to pull for Minami and then it's gonna go to the standard banner right after. Like, brother, get over it. Honestly, like, I don't know what to tell you, but I promise you, as someone who has Minami and, you know, like uses her very frequently and loves having her as a unit, I do not care if they add her to the standard banner so more people could get her. Like, that's like the least of my worries. But that's the one thing in this letter that I was like, okay, whatever. Like, everything else is pretty good. This still kind of sucks, but we'll see. Maybe in the future they'll decide to change their mind, but only time will tell. So next, frequency of new characters and free rewards. Like I said, the schedule that they're releasing characters is really, really fast, even for someone who buys the battle pass and, you know, the dailies. Like, I'm a very light spender. There's some of my homies that do spend money in this game that are just like, hey bro, like I don't mind spending money in this game, but still it'd be nice to have a break in between the banners, because like having these banners be stacked on top of each other is pretty overwhelming. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, seeing 3 limited banners sometimes stacked at once in the contracts tab, it's kind of crazy. They did say they received the feedback that because of the updates, it was really hard for people to save up for the contracts and stuff like that, with in regards to like their tickets or their coins or jewels and stuff like that. So they actually decided to say that we have prepared multiple avenues for players to obtain contract currency, tickets, and coins, such as through login rewards and by playing through the content. We plan to release a large-scale update with version 2.0 in September. To celebrate this update, players will be able to obtain 20 platinum tickets and 20 platinum millicoins through the login bonus, which is huge. That is a lot. Okay. They say they are also planning to hold other campaigns as well. The details of this is also in the latter half of this letter, and we'll basically go over that as well. But yeah, I really do believe that if the schedule wasn't as stacked, that the amount of jewels we were getting would be okay. But again, since the schedule is so fast, it is pretty hard. So I'm glad that they are trying to up the login rewards just so we have more pulls for people who are free to play or like very light spenders like me. But yeah. So for paid items, apparently they wanted to share details on some of the paid items that we could get in the shop. So there are some things that were offered in the Chinese and Asia versions of the game that weren't the same on global. And apparently it's because it was to comply with platform regulations. So I'm not sure exactly which regulations those are, but I guess that does make sense, right? We also plan to offer new items for the Japanese Western versions to replace the items that cannot be sold. So again, I'm not super familiar with what regulations they were trying to comply with in terms of what they were selling on the shop. But they do say that they're trying to make sure the overall value of the items are as close as possible between the two versions, just because obviously like there's only so much they could do with what they're selling. Like I said, I'm not super knowledgeable about what they're referring to, but maybe someone in the comments could elaborate on that. So here, this is the section that I was pretty excited about because it shows that they really are trying to figure out what types of campaigns and features they wanted to implement, which again is why I wanted to be so patient with them, because if they were going to try to make up for all the feedback that they were getting, they were probably trying to plan as much as they can in regards to like what they could provide for the players while trying to upkeep this sped up schedule. Like again, I feel like, in my personal opinion, I really do not care about this sped up schedule. If they just slowed it down, and like, you know, helped with the rewards and like compensate us for like the first 4 patches basically, it would be okay. But you know what? I guess this is pretty cool too, honestly. At least they're trying to make up for it some way. So tasks. We are currently working on a feature where players can obtain various items by dispatching characters of their choosing. Players can exchange 60 of this special item for a cognite that can be used to increase the awareness level of a character. That is awesome, bro. Honestly, like I'm glad that we're basically gonna get free copies for like whatever characters on the standard banners. So that's really helpful, especially since obviously like once Minami or like Yumi get added to the standard banner, this is going to be really useful for their characters. Lufil's Business Plan EX. We plan to add an expansion to Lufil's Business Plan as a brand new feature for the Japanese Western versions. The rewards for this feature will make it easier for players to forge their 5-star weapons and can be obtained through daily play. So yay, 5-star weapons. Love that for us. Thieves Cognite Shard. By gathering 60 of this rare item, players can exchange it for a cognite that could awaken the awareness of characters. So this is what they were talking about in this first one, in the task where you could collect this item to forge the awareness materials. So that's pretty cool. In the Chinese Asia versions, the Thieves Cognite Shards can only be used to awaken characters that are in the gold ticket contracts. The Japanese Western versions, this feature will... Whoa! Oh, whoa, wait, that's sick. This feature will also extend to other 5-star characters like Ren, Minami, Yui, Yusuke, Makoto, and Yumi? I wonder how the Chinese Asia versions are gonna feel about that. Wait, that's insane. So instead of just like the standard banner ones, we also get some for the limited? That's crazy. Holy. W change. I'm excited. All right. The Cognite Shard and 5-star weapon special gift campaigns. This is the previously mentioned campaign where players can obtain Minami's Cognite and 5-star weapon. Oh, okay. Around mid to late September, we plan to hold a special campaign exclusive to the Japanese Western versions where players can obtain the Thieves Cognite Shards and a 5-star weapon. In this campaign, players will have the opportunity to obtain 60 Thief Cognite Shards that can be exchanged for the Cognite of one of the available 5-star characters. Following that, we also plan to hold a gift campaign where players can select one 5-star weapon to obtain. This selection also includes Minami's 5-star weapon. Yo, they like really want to keep this player base alive because that's a crazy change. Sorry, Chinese and Asia versions. Holy, that's sick. All right, well, that's a bunch of the campaigns and some of their closing words. Thank you very much for reading all the way to the end. We wanted to use this letter as an opportunity to address feedback regarding the differences with the Chinese Asia versions that were released earlier, as well as let players know about the upcoming updates and campaigns. We've noticed that many Japanese Western players are progressing through the palaces and story in one continuous playthrough, and smaller things like building characters, city life activities, and character interactions are reserved for shorter daily sessions. We hope to enhance our players' experience with some form of change or growth in their daily play through these new initiatives. We talked about Lufil's Business Plan EX, improvements for the Thief Cognite Shards, and gift campaigns in this letter. We will continue to make improvements following feedback to better match the playstyle of our players in the Japanese Western versions. So yeah, they touched on a lot of the main criticisms that people had with this game, which I'm very, very happy about. These are like the main issues that people were really upset about when comparing the Chinese Asia versions to the Japanese global versions. The only thing that I'm still like about, not really upset, but it's kind of just like, why stick to this plan, is just having Minami and Yumi added to the standard banner 6 months after the release. That's kind of still interesting choice, especially since their reasoning for it when they addressed it was they wanted to basically create this FOMO, like this fake FOMO. I really hope they decide to change that later on, because I really don't think it's a big deal if they added it to the standard banner the month after or like the patch after. But it is what it is. I still believe that this is a big step in the right direction. Anyways, I'm really glad with the direction that they're going in the game. I'm glad that they are clearly paying attention to all the feedback that has been given in regards to the game. So I'm very hopeful for how the game is going to move in the future. Again, I feel like this is a really big step in the right direction, and I'm very excited to just see what else they have in store for us. I love this game. I really hope that it continues to grow and, you know, keep a strong player base. And I hope that the people who had these complaints are, you know, satisfied. Again, there's still one thing that I'm still like about, but hopefully they figure out what they want to do with that and maybe change their mind in the future. But yeah, anyways, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you make it all the way to the end, comment what you think about these changes and how they address the feedback. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.